Computer. Okay. And we're recording. Okay. So again, welcome everyone. And this is a meeting or a get together of people that are interested in triathlon. And my name is Sue Reynolds. I'm the author of The Athlete Inside. And we're just chatting a little bit this evening about triathlon, one of my favorite topics. So what I thought we'd talk about is just a little bit about the book and then my story. And then I thought we'd give away an autographed copy of the book. So we'll do that as we go. And then we'll do this Go Girl course walkthrough. If there's anybody, even if there's one of you that wants to do that, I'm happy to kind of walk through the course and give you things to think about at different sections. So, so about the book. So there's the cover. That the background in the cover is actually on the Nationals course in Cleveland. The book is called The Athlete Inside, The Transforming Power of Hope, Tenacity, and Faith. We have 80 reviews on Amazon. It's got a 5-star rating right now. And sales have gone really, really well. In 3 months, we have sold the same amount of books that most books sell in a lifetime. So I'm really, really pleased with how sales are going with that. One of the questions I get from folks that I always want to explain, especially people that I know or people that are local, is, why did you write a book? And it's not because I think I'm such a great person at all, but here's why. I used to live in Columbus, Indiana, and a reporter had heard about my story and asked if he could do an interview. And he explained, he said, Sue, you have a story that's going to interest people, and you could use that as a platform for sharing any messages that you wanted to share. And so that made me think about, were there things that I wanted to be able to say to folks? And if they came, to hear about my weight loss story and triathlon story, would that give me an opportunity to share other messages that I wanted to share? And I started thinking about that. And then about a month later, a TV station called and they asked if I would do an interview, and I said yes. And they put a little tiny video up on their Facebook page, and the thing went viral. We had almost 300,000 views and hundreds and hundreds of shares. And that really made me realize that I could use this crazy journey of mine as a platform to help people. And that really kind of excited me. And then the other thing that happened is people just started telling me that they were inspired by my journey and that they had started a journey, maybe not even a health journey, but just some journey because I had convinced them that journeys were possible. My story had. And then lots of people said you should write a book. So I had never written before. Matter of fact, I got a D in my high school English class. So I didn't know if I could write, but then I thought I didn't know if I could do a triathlon either. So why not just go down that road? And found out that I was a better writer than I thought I was. So I think that's kind of interesting. Like when I was 18 years old, a teacher told me that I couldn't write, and for 60 years I believe that, So yeah, so that was interesting. So that's why we wrote the book. And basically, what I want to do with the book is just to use it to pay forward all of the kindness that was showered upon me. Those of you who have done triathlons before, how kind and supportive the triathlon community is. I mean, I have never seen so much joy and kindness as I see on race morning in setting up transition. People are so helpful and, cheering for each other. And I think just endurance sports just brings that. And so many people were kind to me. And so I hope to use the book to pay that forward. And then I also started to realize that there would be some income from the books. And I thought, well, how can we use that income to also help people? So we're donating 100% of the book's proceeds to USA Triathlon Foundation. They are a wonderful group. Their mission is to support personal transformations through sport. And since triathlon transformed my life, I thought that was probably just a really good match for me. So there are 3 legs to the foundation's work. They do programming to support youth in triathlon and Olympic hopefuls Matter of fact, there's Chase McQueen lives in Columbus. He is one of the handful of young triathletes that USA Triathlon is developing as a future Olympian. And so he's, you know, all of their work is supporting one of our Hoosiers in Columbus. So, but what really spoke to me was the work that the foundation is doing with para-triathletes. So people who have physical disabilities or visual limitations. And I became interested in that after hearing about a athlete in Bloomington, Tom Morris. Some of you may know about Tom. He was a triathlete, had a bike crash, horrible bike crash, and became paralyzed from the chest down. And he worked his way back. He was a strength coach at Indiana University. He worked his way back and is resumed his coaching, his strength coaching job at IU. So he coaches strength from a wheelchair, and he's just the most amazing person. So really looking at how much Tom inspired me and how much I think para-triathletes inspire, because they're just amazing. I decided to donate all the funds from the book to that. So if you're purchasing a book or thinking about it, you know, think about it as making a donation to help people with disabilities pursue their dreams as well. So, okay. So what's the book about? Well, basically, here it is in a nutshell. When Tina knew me, back when we worked together, there's what I looked like on the left. I weighed 335 pounds. I was morbidly obese, and over a 4-year period, I dropped 200 pounds and discovered this athlete hiding inside of me, and ended up qualifying for the World Championship. And I'll kind of tell this story a little bit. So that's what the book is about in a nutshell. But the other thing I really love about the book is that it tells the story, a very sweet story, about my intergenerational relationship with my coach. So my coach is younger than my children, and I had to trust that he knew what he was talking about. I had to take instructions from him. I had to mind him when he told me to do things or not do things, and that was really strange. I mean, he was a little whippersnapper in my mind, and I was old enough to be his mother, and but he earned my trust and built my confidence. You know, that person who weighed 335 pounds, I never thought of myself as an athlete, and he had to help me understand that, you know, I was an athlete and I could, you know, do things that I didn't think I could do. So all throughout the book, there's this story about the relationship that I think is a very sweet story about my relationship with my coach. So yeah, and oops, there's a spelling problem. Mental attributes. So, but it's also a book about mental attributes that really, you know, whatever you're trying to be a peak performer in your career, or to be a, you know, wonderful spouse, or, you know, a better parent, what are the mental attributes that allow you to get to the places where you want to go? And in that sense, the book isn't just for athletes. It's really about just having dreams and what it takes to get to your dreams. So yeah, so that's the book. And then here's my story. So for those of you who have done triathlons or who are starting your triathlons, when you do triathlons, there's a couple of decisions that you have to make. You have to decide what distance you want to go. So that's just like in track and field, you have to decide what event you want to compete in. So you have to decide your event, the shortest triathlon being the sprint and the longest one being the full Ironman. And then you also have to decide what speed you're going to do. Are you going to do this for fun and you're just trying to get across the finish line? Or are you going to do it to, you know, compete with yourself and to always work for personal bests? Or do you want to compete with other people? And for me in the beginning, I mean, my first triathlon, I was still majorly obese. My goal was to do the shortest triathlon possible, the sprint, and I just wanted to get across the finish line. I didn't care how long it took me. if it took me 3 weeks to get across the finish line, I would be a winner in my mind. So I was just trying to finish because I knew that would be huge. So as I moved on in triathlon, then I started in my second triathlon. I thought, well, I wonder if I could go faster than my first one. And in my third one, I wondered if I could go faster than in my second one. So, and then I kept like getting curious, and I'm sure for many of you, this has been the case or will be the case. You know, you can go a sprint. Well, can you go an Olympic? And then when you do an Olympic, are you still trying to set a PR? No. I mean, your first Olympic, you're just trying to get across the finish line. And then, you know, doing sprint and trying to compete. Most of my story today, I'm talking about when I raced in sprints. I specialized in sprint triathlon, and then getting to the point where I was a competitor, where I could compete against others and hold my own. So as I mentioned in the beginning, there I was, 335 pounds. Being that size is not only difficult on your fitness, but just the sheer volume of my body made a lot of things difficult. When you're that big, there's just places you don't fit. So that was a challenge. And then I was also incredibly inactive. I was obese from most of my adult life. So, you know, I was obese for 40 years. And spent most of it on the couch or sitting in a chair. I avoided walking or standing at all costs. So very inactive, large, and in 4 years, I made that transition from obesity to qualifying for the World Championship. One of the questions I often get is how did you get so large? And there's a lot of stereotypes that go with obesity that I don't think are, I guess I think any stereotype is not fair. But there's stereotypes that go with obesity also, which I don't think are fair. One is that obese people are unhappy, and I was not unhappy. I have a wonderful family, been married for 40 years, had a great job that I loved and felt good about. So I was not unhappy. And then another stereotype is that obese people lack self-discipline. And the picture that you're seeing there on the screen is at a conference that my nonprofit put on. I founded a nonprofit that is 20 years later is still going. And, you know, I couldn't have done that if I didn't lack self-discipline. So that wasn't the problem. So the reason I got so big was that I loved my job. And we worked mainly with Indiana schools, but schools all over the country to raise achievement and specifically with lower income schools. And we did good work, and I really felt passionately about my work. And so I pulled a lot of all-nighters. I would do 2 or 3 all-nighters in a week. And then to stay awake, I would eat. And so I might, you know, in one all-nighter, I might eat 3 dozen cookies and maybe some leftover pizza and a pound bag of M&Ms. I mean, I just ate to stay awake. And then the next day I would be tired and I'd eat some more to stay awake. And I like to think that as the nonprofit organization grew, so did my waistline. So I was eating for a good reason, to stay awake so I could help kids. But on the other hand, it caught up with me, and I just had gained way too much weight. Another question I always get is, I had tried a lot of times, I mean, probably 50 times to lose weight. And I'd always like lose a little bit, and then I'd gain it all back and a little bit more. And one of the lessons I've learned through my journey is that your why for doing anything, your reason for doing whatever you do is really important. So my why in all of those failed diets was to be thin because society told me I should look thin. You know, when I was growing up, it was, you should look like Barbie. And when I was a teenager, you should look like Twiggy, the model. And that was enough of a why to make me start a diet. So, but it wasn't enough of a why to keep me going when it was tough. I was tired and here's cookies in front of me. So my why just wasn't strong enough to keep me on task. So finally, the why changed. I got so big that I started to not be able to do things I wanted to do. I worked in downtown Indianapolis, and we would sometimes do a working lunch and we'd walk to a restaurant. And I'd have to just cross my fingers that whoever was seating us didn't put us in a booth, because my belly, I mean, you can see my belly there, it did not fit in the booth. Going into a restaurant or a restroom stall, I could get in the stall, but I couldn't get the door closed behind me. My body just took up too much space and the door would get stuck. So I always had to go to the restroom in the handicap restroom. I mean, it was kind of embarrassing. And but the worst was I couldn't put on my own shoes and socks, and I hated that. Every morning I'd have to ask my husband to put my socks on for me. All my shoes couldn't be tie shoes. If I had tie shoes, I'd have to ask my husband to tie my shoes. So one morning I had just had enough of not being able to do the things I wanted to do. I remember sitting at the breakfast table and putting my hands out in front of me and just making a motion like I was pushing away the waffles and just saying, enough, I am not doing this anymore. And at that point, I just started making different choices. And my why was so strong that when the going got tough, I was able to stick in. So yeah, so my whole goal in the beginning was to put on my socks. When I first could put on my socks, that was like my biggest success. So I get questions about how did you lose your weight? I just ate a healthy diet. I had tried diets where you counted calories or counted points, but what I found was I ate all my points for breakfast, and then I just wouldn't eat the rest of the day. Matter of fact, in the book, I start out with saying that I had lost 66 pounds, and I was so excited, and then I gained it all back because I was not following a nutrition plan that was sustainable for me. So what was sustainable is to just eat healthy foods. I eat 5 times a day, and those are basically the foods that I like, and I've learned to love these foods. Today, I'm as excited to eat an apple as I used to be about eating a candy bar. I mean, I just love these foods, and I don't crave anymore the foods that I used to, I used to, every time we stopped at the gas station, I'd buy a candy bar. I mean, I just loved my sweets. So, but after about 3 weeks, that craving went away, and yeah, so it worked. I do a cheat meal, which I think is fun. So I can, on my cheat meal once a week, I can have a candy bar or waffles and, or whatever I want, but it's just one meal, and then that's it. That's the end of it. So yeah. So in terms of exercise, when you weigh 335 pounds, there's not a lot of exercise you can do. I mean, I knew I was not going to be running laps around the track. So I started thinking about what could I do, if anything. For a long time, I didn't exercise. For years, I didn't exercise because I thought it was impossible at my size. But my husband finally, after nagging me for decades, he finally convinced me to go out on a walk with him. So this is the house that I lived in Columbus. It's on Chestnut Street. And where we went out the back door. I'm holding onto his arm like for dear life, and I think he's probably carrying half of me. And we walked out the back door. We went down this driveway, and then up to the neighbor's driveway. So that was about 50 meters, and I was done. Oh my gosh. I mean, if you think about it, carrying an extra 200 pounds, that's like carrying 10, 20-pound bags of dog food on top of my body. Or it's like, imagine carrying another person on top of your body. It's just hard to walk when you have all that extra weight. So made it to the neighbor's driveway. I was exhausted. Walked back home, covered with sweat, collapsed on the couch, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that was the hardest thing I've ever done. But on the other hand, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I exercised. And it had been decades since I had exercised. I can remember thinking, I exercised, I actually exercised. And I can remember getting all excited because I was sweating. And it wasn't sweat from heat, it was sweat from exertion. And I thought, oh my gosh, to this day, I love sweat because it represents exercise. I mean, I just loved it. So the next day we went to the second neighbor's driveway. And the day after that, we went to the third neighbor's driveway. And each time I went to another driveway each day, I would text my sons, they were adults and not living at home anymore, I would text them, woohoo, and you made it to the 7th driveway. And my kids would text back, good job, Mom. And what I didn't realize was that I had set up an accountability system, which I think if you're trying anything, hard training for a different distance in triathlon, or trying your first triathlon, or trying to get faster in triathlon, setting up an accountability system where you're checking in with somebody every day. For me, that's huge. Every hard thing I do now, I work in an accountability system with it. For me, it just works. So my son's for my accountability system. So one day I could walk a mile. That was a big milestone. And then I had kind of secretly been trying to get to walking 3 miles because I knew that that was a 5K. And my son had been kind of putting the seed in my head that, oh, Mom, if you walk 3 miles, we can do a 5K. So I text my children, woohoo, I walked 3 miles. And of course, my younger son texts back and said, okay, it's time. We're going to walk a 5K now, Mom. And I was like horrified. To me, 5Ks were for fit people. They were for people that run. They're not for obese people that can barely walk 3 miles without dying. So I made all kinds of excuses. And my son, he kept saying, Mom, that's just an excuse. How are we going to get past that? And I come up with something else. Mom, that's just an excuse. How are we going to get past that? So finally, I agreed, and he signed us up for my first 5K. Check out the name of the first 5K. It was the Krispy Kreme Challenge. So one of my big fears was that everybody would be pointing at the obese person and wondering why she was at a 5K. Now I'm afraid everybody's going to think that the obese person came to this race just because there were donuts there. So it was just like awful. But again, I kept coming up with yeah buts, and my son kept saying, Mom, anytime you hear yourself saying those words, that's just where you start an action plan. So yeah, but you don't know what to wear. Well, figure it out. Can't afford it, go to the Goodwill. I was afraid I'd be so slow that the race director would have to wait for me forever. So he said, Mom, that's a yeah, but call the race director, ask them if they'll still be there in an hour and a half. So I called and they said yes. So I finally agreed to do the 5K and the Krispy Kreme challenge, and we go to the race, and it was wonderful. I finished, and it was really the first time that I felt like kind of an athlete. And I'll tell you where it happened. You know how they have those tables with all the little cups of water on them, where you pick up the aid stations. So when I got to my first aid station, I thought the water was not for me. I didn't think I deserved water because I was just walking. I thought the water on the table was for the runners. So I remember it was a big debate. I thought, do I go over there? That's probably for the runners. I don't think I'm supposed to. That's not for me. So I walked by, and this volunteer, bless her heart, she changed my life. She picked up a glass of water and came running after me and handed me the glass of water. And she said, you need this. You need water. And at that point, I thought, oh, I was like, I'm in the Boston Marathon. I need water on the run course. And that was awesome. So I started, walking more and more. And I did a water aerobics class, which is wonderful exercise for someone who has carrying extra weight. And then after class one day, I got curious, can I swim a length? So, and I really thought that I would drown. I really was concerned. So I took a kickboard with me, and I thought if I get stuck, I can hold on to the kickboard until the lifeguard gets there. But made it a length, and then a couple days later, I tried 2 lengths, and then I took a spin class, and then got this crazy idea, maybe someday I could do a triathlon. But I did not actually think I would do one. I just had fun thinking about it. So when I was in spin class, I'd be, spinning, and I'd be thinking, hi, I'm training for a triathlon. Or I'd be on a walk and I'd be thinking, I'm training for a triathlon. And I remember thinking, won't my friends be surprised someday if I actually do one? Ha ha, I never will. But then probably like those of you who have done one, I discovered I could do all of the distances as I kept going farther and farther, and thought, well, I might as well try. So signed up for one. It's a total secret. I didn't tell anybody because I was pretty sure I would back out. I told my husband, he went with me, but I didn't tell any of my friends because I didn't want to be embarrassed if I chickened out at the last minute. So there are all of these yeah buts that came with this. Yeah, but I can't run. And then I had to find out that was, yeah, but was a call for an action plan. So I found an app, Couch to 5K, and started running a little bit. Yeah, but I will drown. Got the kickboard out and swam with the kickboard for a while until I was convinced I wouldn't drown. I could not swim a full length, so I would kick like a half a length with the board, and then I put it on the side and swim the other half of the length. Yeah, but I don't own a bike, and so that meant a bike purchase. There's a funny story here. See how those bikes are all lined up in a row? When I first started thinking about a bike, I went to a bike shop and there were all those bikes and they're all in a row, and I decided to just step over the last one and just to kind of hold on to the handlebars and see how that felt. And I'm still very, very heavy. So I stepped over it was a girl's bike. I stepped over the frame, and in the process, I tripped. And so I fell, and we went down into the next bike that went down into the next bike, into the next bike. I knocked over like 18 bikes. And I'm on the floor, and the bikes are on top of me, so I can't get up. And I'm laughing hysterically. My husband is laughing hysterically, and I remember saying, "Pick up the bikes! Pick up the bikes!" And of course, all the clerks came running over. It was awful. So, at any rate, yeah. But I finally, got the bike. So my first race was on the course that is coming up for this weekend. For those of you who are doing Go Girl, it was the Indianapolis Sprint Triathlon. I had not a clue what I was doing. I mean, I'm 60 years old. My friends were like crocheting. Nobody was doing anything athletic at 60. So I go, I've never been to a triathlon. I've never seen one. I have no idea what transition even looks like. But I get there, and one of the things that really stood out to me, which was a lesson that I've taken from this journey, was really looking at telling myself, go away fear. In the book, that comes up over and over again, how many things I was terrified of doing. And what I do is I just say to myself, go away fear. And when I say that, I try to say it with conviction, go away fear. And this wall kind of appears for me when I say that. And my fear is on the other side of the wall. And I'm refusing to let it dictate what my actions are. That's fear I know I'm going to be afraid, but that fear is going to stay over there, and I'm going to do what I need to do to move forward. So go away fear was huge. There's a lot of problems with this transition area, as you can see. I didn't know what I was doing. See this duffel bag? I think I had three changes of clothing in the duffel bag. I brought a lunch because I thought I would need to eat between the swim and the bike. And then here's my swim cap. It didn't occur to me I was going to need to wear it in the swim, so I left it in transition. And I had no idea what I was doing. But another lesson that I learned was when you're lost or you're afraid or you're confused, just ask questions. So I found somebody who had disc wheels because I figured, that looked like a fancy bike. They must know what they're doing. And that was my second experience with the kindness of the triathlon community. This man, well, it was really a young man. I mean, he was probably in his 20s. He dropped everything he was doing. He came over to my place, showed me how to put my bike on the rack, how to rack my bike, showed me how to lay my towel down. And it's not perfect. I mean, I put my gear underneath my back wheel, the up wheel. Technically, it's supposed to be underneath the front wheel or to the side of the front wheel. The bike next to me has its handlebars down on the other side. I should have flipped my bike around so that my handlebars were opposite. There are a lot of mistakes here, but that's one of the things I love about these, the Go Girl Triathlon and this one, is that it's really beginner friendly. Nobody yelled at me. I didn't, get disqualified or, whatever. So it's just, yeah, just a really friendly race. So here's the swim start. And you can see I'm still like majorly heavy. I waited until the very, very end to go because I was afraid to swim around people. So I think I was the last one or the second to last one in the water. And I'm horrified for anybody to see me in my bathing suit. I haven't worn a bathing suit in public for decades. And I brought a cover up that went all the way down to my ankles. And at the very last minute, I handed it to my husband and I said to myself, just go away, pride, because pride more than fear keeps me from doing what I want to do. And I just said, go away, pride, because I knew if I let that pride take hold, I would have gone home. So I had to separate that pride from me and just tell myself to keep going. So I slipped out of the cover up, handed it to my husband, turned to run into the lake. I didn't know that there were professional photographers at these races. And as soon as I turned, here's this guy clicking pictures of me as I'm jiggling my jiggly body parts into the water. And I'm like, go away, pride, go away, pride, go away, pride. So yeah, that was a little crazy, but made it into the water. And I love this photo for a couple of reasons. One is that it shows, look at all of the boats. Here's a boat, here's a boat, here's another one, here's another one. So there's 6 boats in this photo. So for those of you who said that the thing that you're most worried about in the swim is the swim, those people in the boats, they're looking at you all the time. And all you have to do is raise your hand and they're there in a jiff. The other thing I love about this picture is look at how many people have their heads out of the water. These people are not swimming freestyle. They're swimming breaststroke, side stroke, they're dog paddling. I dog paddled part of my first race. Or they're just treading water and looking around, seeing where they are before they keep going. So yeah, so so many times I think there's the perception that you have to be an excellent swimmer to do triathlons, and you don't. You're even allowed to, if you want to rest and you want to hold on to something, raise your hand, the kayak comes over, you can hold on to the boat and rest. And then as long as you're not making forward progress, and then take off and go forward again. So yeah, I never up until the swim, I was terrified. But after I got in the water, I didn't feel afraid at all. It was, just I went slow, took my time, and it was fine. So that was the swim. Here's my first transition. I did put on clothes. I sat down. I did get the sandwich out of my cooler and I ate a sandwich before I went out on the bike. I brushed my hair because I wanted to be pretty on the bike. And I think I spent 10 minutes or so, I don't know, 6 minutes. I spent a long time in that transition. And I walked the whole transition because I was trying to conserve every bit of energy that I had. So yeah, the other thing I love about this picture, this woman was just coming in from the swim. So I was hoping she was behind me and I was second to last at this point. And then this guy, he was so fast, he had already finished his bike and was out on the run before I even started my bike. I mean, I was so slow. So went out on the bike. I loved the bike, and to this day, I love cycling. I can remember being terrified because there are a few little hills on the Eagle Creek course, and I was afraid of not being able to get up them. But what I learned was my plan had been to coast down the hills to rest and then climb the next hill. But what I found out was that if I went really fast down the hill, I could coast most of the way up the next hill. So that became the plan, and I got really used to like going fast. I just loved it. There was an officer at one of the intersections directing traffic. I remember riding by and looking at him and saying, "Wee!" And as I rode by, I was like a 10-year-old. I mean, I was having so much fun. So came in from the bike, went off on the run. And at this point, for those of you who have done a triathlon, I mean, this is the most amazing feeling because you know that you've completed 2/3 of the race. And even if you're, even if you're slowly walking the whole run, you start to suspect that you're going to finish it. And what I didn't realize is that there'd be all these people there cheering in folks that were finishing. So I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be really cool. There's going to be people cheering for me when I finish. And you get out to the halfway point, turn around, come back, and when you come into this finish chute, you can't see the finish chute until you turn the very last corner and come in. So at this point, I'm dying. I'm like, my legs have had it, and my heart is racing, and I'm thinking now, am I going to make it or not? I may just pass out right here. But I'm trudging along, and again, I'm obese. I'm carrying all that extra weight. But I keep thinking those people are going to be cheering at the finish line. I'm so excited. So I turn into the home stretch, come down to the finish chute. But what I didn't realize is that when you finish last or second to last, and you're a good 20 minutes behind the person in front of you, this is what the finish line looks like. There is nobody there. Everybody has gone home. They had even taken down all the racks in transition. I was so far behind everybody. If you look at the clock here, it was 2 hours and 20 minutes after the race started. I mean, I was so slow. But the coolest thing was, this is really cool. See that man there in front? He cheered for me all the way in. He just clapped and clapped and cheered. And I felt like I'd won the Olympics. I went under that finish chute, and my husband started taking pictures, and in all the photos, I'm holding up one finger, even though I was last, or I think second to last in this one. In my mind, I was number one, because now I was a triathlete. I had finished. It was so cool. Just a couple of weeks ago, I found out who that man was. This was 7 years ago that he cheered for me. And he actually is an employee at Tuxedo Brothers. He's the announcer there, and I didn't know that. So I've been telling this story for 7 years, and finally we found out who that guy is, and I sent him a book, and he's just really a nice guy, and he loves announcing the race because he gets to cheer everybody in. And yeah, that was really, really a special moment. But again, the kindness of the triathlon community, and how one little thing, him cheering me in, changed my life. I mean, it was just amazing. So moving quickly along, did several more triathlons and found out, I started coming in first in my age group, which was kind of exciting until I realized that I was the only one in my age group. So there's not a lot of women doing this at age 60. So yeah, sometimes I would be like the very last person overall, but because I was the only one in my age group, I got to get up on the podium. So I never knew if I should tell my friends I was last overall or I was first in my age group. So yeah, but I started, thinking about, I wonder if I am any good, I wonder how other women my age do in this. So I thought I needed to go to a big race just so there would be other women in my age group. I had qualified for the national championship because I was first in my age group, competing against nobody, and decided to go to nationals. I knew there would be like 50 to 70 women there my age who would be all racing. So I went with the goal of just getting across the finish line, and to see all these amazing athletes who were, the best in the country. So this was a time where I really had to say, go away fear, go away fear. This is the national championship. Was in Milwaukee. That next year's race is going to go back to Milwaukee, which is nice. And this was really life-changing. By this time, I got a coach because I knew I wasn't supposed to eat a sandwich in transition, but I wasn't really sure what I was supposed to do. So I got a coach to kind of help me figure all this out. So he told me to line up front and center. I think this is me right here in the middle. And when he told me to be front and center, I thought he was nuts. But by that point, he had taught me that I needed to be coachable and do what he told me to do. So I got there. So it's my first mass start. My first is in Lake Michigan, first large body of water, first time to wear a wetsuit. I was terrified and actually had a meltdown, major meltdown the day before I was ready to drive home. But the gun goes off, and we're all racing for a narrow point where we have to swim underneath a bridge. So as we're moving forward, everybody's getting closer and closer and closer together. And I'm swimming, and because I'm in front, and I'm, you know, people are kind of like swimming next to me, and we're close. And again, you don't have to get into the position I got myself into. If I just lined up in the back, I would have been, you know, would have been fine. But I'm here in the front. The gun goes off. We all take off, and literally, I'm coming up to breathe, and women's ribs are on my ribs, and I mean, we're like sardines. We're so packed in there. So my arm comes down on top of the woman next to me, right between her shoulder blades. And I'm thinking, now what do I do? You know, do I pop my head up and say, oh, excuse me, you go right ahead? I'm thinking, you know what, this is a race. So my arm is on the middle of her back, and I want to get to that bridge before she does. So I just kept my stroke going around, not realizing that in that process, I shoved her underwater, and I swam right over the top of her. And I was shocked that I loved that feeling. Just the competitiveness of it, beating her to that bridge, and just, you know, just there's just this primal instinct of, you know, competition that I had no clue existed inside of me. When I got home, I called my coach, and I told him, I said, Coach, I think we have a problem. I like shoved this woman underwater, and I liked it, and and I was ready to just give up on competing, because it really did upset me. I thought, I don't like that competitive beast inside of me. But my coach was all excited. He said, oh my gosh, Sue, that's wonderful. That's the competitive spirit we want. That's a good thing. He said, you want to have that. He said, don't push anybody down when you're walking on the street. But if you are competing in triathlon, and you know, you happen to bump into somebody in the drive to get, you know, ahead, he said, that's okay. So I've learned that I am so competitive. It's just like, I had no idea until I was 60 that I had this competitive beast inside of me. And then I also finished middle of the pack. And I started thinking, man, if I really, really committed, what would happen if I could just do this as a hobby and finish in the middle of the best triathletes in the country? I mean, that was really kind of amazing to me. So then I got this another secret daydream. I started wondering, gosh, if I'm middle of the pack, you know, could I move up? Could I be part of Team USA someday? And I didn't think I'd ever be a member of the team. I thought the best I could probably do was to be an alternate for the team. So that was the goal. And I thought it would take me 3 years to get to that point. So, and I didn't tell anybody. I didn't even tell my coach I was thinking about this. And then one day I finally said, okay, Coach, you probably need to know. I'm wondering if, you know, what you think about this, being an alternate. I figured it would take me 3 years. I can be patient. And he told me to forget about it. He said, you know, just forget about that. And then he said, let's just make the team outright, and let's do it this year. So I'm thinking, what? The qualifying race is 9 months from now. And 2 years ago, I couldn't tie my shoes. And you're telling me I can make Team USA? You're crazy. But by then, I had learned to trust my coach. And if he told me that I could do it, I thought, yeah, let's go for it. I thought it was his dream too, to coach a triathlete to Worlds, and we did it together. So we decided to go for it, and that meant a whole nother mindset. My motto for the year was no excuses, whatever it takes, find a way. I promised myself that if I could think of something that I could do to make me faster, I had to do it. No exceptions. I told myself that the attributes I wanted to have was to be coachable, to be tough-minded, and to be patient, because I knew this was going to be a journey. It wasn't going to happen overnight. So we, you know, continued with our swim, bike, and run workouts. We added strength workouts. We really focused on my nutrition so that my body would build, you know, the most that it could. And then recovery is huge. Your body actually builds while you're recovering, especially at night when you're sleeping. So sleep, my coach started monitoring how much sleep I was getting. I felt like he was monitoring me every second of the day. And then there was the mental part of it too, because I did not think of myself as an athlete, and certainly not an athlete that had any chance at, you know, succeeding in qualifying for Worlds. And that was something we really had to work on. I couldn't even call myself an athlete at that point. And my coach really worked with me on just the mental strength of thinking of myself as an athlete. So I developed a whole lot more mantras. I really like mantras. They just keep my focus on the right things. So I've talked about, you know, the first ones. The blue font there, those are things that I say to myself at the start line. I feel really blessed that I'm calm at the start line. I'm never a wreck. I have a little bit of nerves, but that's a good thing. But I'm never a wreck at the start line. And I think it's because I know I'm prepared, and I know that I've come to compete, and now it's just, you know, do the job that I prepared to do. So at the start line, I always stand and look over the water, and I'm saying to myself, you are prepared, you are a competitor, you're prepared, you're a competitor. And I'm just saying those words calmly to myself, and I just love that calmness. Everybody has different ways to prepare mentally at the race start. You know, some people like to listen to music, some people like to hop, hoop and shout. I like to just really be calm and focus. With my toes on the start line, looking over the water and just telling myself, you're ready for this. Go do the job you trained to do. So, and then in the green is the mantras I use in the race when it's in the run, when I think I'm going to die. So in sprint racing, I'm racing all out. And I've raced so hard that sometimes I've actually collapsed before I got to the finish line. That was kind of a problem we had to fix. So, but you know, it hurts. I mean, there's not, you know, at the end, if you're racing hard, the lactate builds up and it hurts. So my favorite mantra is show what you are made of. And I do it in stride with my cadence. So it's show what you are made of. Show what. And what I'm telling myself is have grit, Sue. You know, show yourself what you're made of. You know, you're not a weenie, you're tough, and just show yourself who you are. So that's kind of what's going through my head. And then my other thing, I think this is funny. I'll pretend that I'm a news broadcaster, and I'll say to myself, I'll pretend I'll hear the news broadcaster, and he's saying, and here comes Sue Reynolds. Oh my gosh, look how fresh she looks. Look at that form. She's in good shape. She's going to just do fantastic at the end of this race. And I'm saying that to myself, and I'm believing it, you know. So it's just, you know, those mental games I think are huge in preparation, and then once you get there to do it. So we end up at the World's Qualifier. It was in Claremont, Florida. There were a lot of new things there for me too. There were baskets instead of putting paper towel or your towel down to put your gear on. Every single basket looked the same, so finding your bike in transition was like a challenge. And then this was a course that had multiple bike laps, and when you came around, you raced through transition. So when you were in transition, you had to be careful for bikes racing through. It was just a weird race. So that was transition. I have some little video clips. I don't know if I've never done this before either, but let's see if you can. This is the swim start. So this is another different swim start. We had to run down the beach and then either jump into the water or I dolphin dived in the water. I'm on the far end in green, if you can see me, and I'm a slow runner. You can see when we hit the water, I was behind everybody, but I did the dolphin diving well and ended up with the leaders by the time we were swimming. So here we go. This is, I think, like 8 seconds. Go, ladies! There's the dolphin dive. And now I'm with the leaders. Yeah, so that was the start. Whoops, how do I stop that? There we go. So this is the bike, and this was different too because it's draft legal. So in almost all races but 2 that I can think of in the United States, you're not allowed to draft, which is where you get in a pack of bikes so that you can take advantage of other bikes pushing the air aside for you. It makes it easier for you to ride. But this race was draft legal, so we had to learn in this 9 months how to race draft legal. I can remember my coach getting next to me on the bike. He's riding and I'm riding, and he would push me and he would hit my handlebars, and you know, he was trying to show me that I could be in a pack and be bumped around and I wouldn't go down, to build my confidence. I was really blessed to get into a pack. A lot of women didn't. In the pack, I'm 60, the pack that I got into were all 45-year-olds. And so, and I stayed with them. So that was kind of fun. So, and my coach went to this race with me, and I think we had worked so hard on drafting. You can hear the excitement in his voice as he's cheering as I come around.
Right there, Sue. Stay right there. Good work.
And I could hear him say that, and I could hear his excitement, which just really pumped me up. That was fun. Oops. And then in the run, it was hot and humid. This was in Florida, and I know it was 87 degrees, and I think the humidity was close to 80 as well. People were like it was not good. Here's my run coming in. You can see I am dying.
All the way, Sue!
There's the coach. That's my husband in the foreground.
Awesome job.
And I am dying. So, but I finished, and here's me telling my family and friends about the race. Hi family, hi everybody, hi friends. I was second and I made the team. So, oh my gosh, it was hot, but I was second and I made the team. So I'm going to Coachable, racing for the United States. I'm going to be able to wear a uniform that has USA across my butt. So I'm very, very happy and very, very tired. Love y'all. That was an amazing moment. Yeah, that's a moment I'll never forget. So racing at Worlds was incredible. I've never done a lot of international travel, and just to meet these people from all over the world and to realize how much we are the same, even though our religions may be different and our politics may be different, but we all love triathlon. And it was just such a happy place, and to, you know, to have that bond with people from all these different countries just was amazing to me. And then the other fun thing was the uniform that we wore, which did have Reynolds USA across my butt as well. But it's the same uniform that our Olympians wear. And to be able to, you know, wear my country's Olympic uniform was just incredible. So I gave everything I had on that race. This was in Mexico, and it was also extremely hot. A lot of people passed out on the run. First swim in the ocean. It was another draft legal race. I also got into a pack, so that was helpful. And oh my gosh, that run was so hot. I was like dying. So, but I gave it everything that I had, and I ended up coming in 11th in the world in my first Worlds, and I just couldn't believe it. To almost be in the top 10 was crazy. Stepped across the finish line 11th, and then I promptly collapsed. So I was a little tired. I gave it everything I had, and I just feel really grateful that I didn't collapse before the finish line, that I made it across. So that was nice. So year after that, I qualified again. I went to Holland and raced, and that was where I had my best finish. I was 6th in the world and also first American, so that was fun. I learned there that when you're competing at this level, there's two things that have to go your way. One is that you have to be, you know, fit and ready to go, and you know, you have to bring the athlete to the start line. But then there's all the things that you can't control. You know, you can't control the weather. You can't control whether you're going to flat on the bike. You can't control who shows up from other countries. And at this race, all the things that I could control, I controlled well, and all the things that I could not control went my way. So that, you know, that resulted in a good finish. I've qualified a couple years after that, got to go to Australia and Switzerland. This year's race in Canada was canceled, so we didn't get to race. But next year, I qualified for next year's team. We're going to Bermuda next year, so that'll be fun. And then just real quickly, and then I'll close. Last fall, I just got curious again. I wondered, could I do a half Ironman? Could I race for 70 miles? And so I decided to try one, and then, you know, my goal was to just cross the finish line. So I wasn't racing, except that after I got into the bike, I realized I'd had such a good swimming bike that I had a good chance of qualifying for Worlds, because my first two had been good. So I ended up racing the run part, and I just had a really good race, and I did qualify for Worlds in the half Ironman distance too. So yeah, so that's a different kind of pain in that race. When you go that long, it's just about staying upright. You know, there's so much wear and tear on the body, so you don't go fast. You just you have to run slower to go for, you know, that far, that long. So yeah, so that was kind of fun. And then finally, some resources I wanted to tell you about. If any of you are into electrolytes, it's always a good idea when you're perspiring a lot to replace not only the fluids, the water, but also to replace the electrolytes. So I'm an ambassador for Precision Hydration. They have a really neat thing on their website called there's a free hydration plan. So they give you a sweat test. It's all online. You answer questions. And from that, they can determine how much electrolyte you're losing in your sweat and how much you're sweating. And then they recommend to you how much electrolyte to take in. And you can either use their electrolytes or use some other companies, but it's just something I think, especially in hot Indiana humid races, replacing electrolytes is something to pay attention to. So if you ever want to purchase their products, if you use the code AthleteInside, there's a 15% discount. So, and then this is my website, and this is, again, something I created to try to help people. So just some things I wanted to point out. On tips, there's a whole bunch of, there's a Q&A in there, questions that people ask me over the years. I've just done a Q&A on tips for weight loss and triathlon and just about change in itself. I'm doing now, so many people said, Sue, we want to know what's happened to you after the book. So I do a weekly newsletter now that's got tips in it and links to the blogs that I write. So if you want to sign up for the newsletter, that's there. This part down here, I really like. In my job, I teach community leaders about the process of change. And so I took all of those lessons and I applied it to triathlon. So this is an interactive tool where you can go in to develop the foundations that one needs for successful change. So what are your, what's your vision? What are your dreams for triathlon? And then what are your goals? What are the limiters? Where's resistance going to come from? And what are you going to do about it? So this is just a series of questions that takes you through that journey of creating the foundations for successful change. And then this that we're recording right now will be posted on my media page. So if you click that media link, it will, oh, wait, I decided to do that differently. Scratch that, never mind. There's stuff on the media page. I have a YouTube channel that's got some helpful videos like how to put on a wetsuit. But this recording, I decided to just post this on my Facebook page. So if you want to go back and watch any parts of this or share it with somebody who wasn't able to be here, my triathlon page is, my Facebook page is @SueReynolds Triathlon, and it'll be posted there. As soon as we finish, I'll get it up there. And then finally, if you decide if you're thinking about purchasing a book, that would be wonderful. And again, I'm pushing the book sales because every book we sell brings funding to help paratriathletes, to help people with disabilities pursue their triathlon dreams. So it's a fundraiser. And just remember, you're supporting a really great cause. And that's it. So let's take questions, then we'll do the book giveaway. And then if anybody wants to do a look at the course, I can show you. I've got some more slides that kind of take you through the course and talk about tips if you want to do that. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. And now let me go to the chat screen. I see there's questions that came up. The first comment I saw was, "That's hilarious." That's good. Okay. Oh, somebody tested the spacebar and it didn't work. Oh, interesting. Did anybody, I can see most of you, did anybody get the spacebar to work? I guess I didn't hear anybody, so maybe not. Okay, that's good to know. Needed not applicable on the most worried question. Okay, that's a good point, because some of you have done this before and you're not worried. Great. Okay. I'm seeing, sounds terrific. Love, go away fear. Yeah, I like that too. That's been really helpful to me. How long was your swim? In MKE 2014. I don't know what MKE. Oh, MKE. I don't know who
Milwaukee. Sorry, Milwaukee.
Oh, in Milwaukee. Oh, Milwaukee. That makes sense.
Sorry.
Yeah. So the actual distance for a sprint triathlon swim is 750 meters. But there are very few races around here that race that distance. So like the Go Girl Triathlon, I think is 500 meters. And there's a lot of triathlons around here where it's even shorter, 400. And that's because the race directors are trying to introduce triathlon to people, and they know that a lot of folks are nervous about the swim, so they make it a little more beginner friendly. But the actual distance is 750 meters. So yeah. Okay, let's see, there's a couple others, and then we'll see what else comes up. So race day schedule, that's something, if you stay for the next part, I'm going to go through that and kind of wrote a list up of what I do. One of the things, I like to be really, really calm on race morning. So the thing that makes me the most not calm is not staying on a time schedule in the morning, and all of a sudden it's time for the race to start and I haven't warmed up and I don't have my body marked, and now I'm frantic. So I write down ahead of time, a few days ahead of time, what my schedule is, what time I'm going to wake up, what time I'm going to leave the hotel or leave the house, what time I'm going to be in transition, what time I'm going to do everything. So I can, when we get to that point in the next slides, if anybody's staying for that, I can talk about that. But yeah, so the eating, I try to eat breakfast at least 2 hours, but usually 3 hours before I race, because I want to give everything time to make its way through before I race, because I don't want to have to go while I'm running. And I also found that the other thing that helps with that is eating dinner early the night before. So I eat dinner at 5 the night before, so that I can make sure everything's through. Yeah, so that's, I think, just writing that list down and putting times on it. And then I'm not good with time, and so I give that list to my husband, and he's the timekeeper on race morning. So he'll be saying, "Sue, you need to be starting your warm up now. Sue, you're supposed to be having your body marking now." So we walk through. So how do you find a good training plan? Yeah, and thank you for emailing me that question too. So there's a couple of things. Getting a coach right now is not an option. Okay, I understand totally. So I want to say one thing about coaching though, and then I'll give you some other ideas. Coaches have different levels of support. So like my coach is Brant Baylor. He's in Bloomington. His website is dreambigtriathloncoaching.com. If you search for Dream Big Triathlon Coaching, you'll find him. But he has 3 different levels of coaching. So One level is he's just writing a plan out for you once a week, and you communicate with him once a week, and it's very reasonable. It's less expensive than going to the YMCA. And then you can get more and more support for him. So the support that I get is a little bit more pricey, but I'm communicating with him every day. So you know, if you think coaching might not be an option because of cost, just keep in mind that there's different levels of support. And he coaches virtually. Brant has athletes all over the world. So there's an app that he uses where you upload data to him and he reviews it, and then he'll give you comments on how you did in that workout, and he might adjust some future workouts based on how that workout went. So, okay, so that's coaching with a live person. Then the other thing that you can do, you can purchase training plans. You can find free training plans. One of the things I don't like about that is that they're written for the average person, and nobody's the average person. So there's a website called My Time to Try. The word "to" is spelled out T-O, and "try" is T-R-I. mytimetotry.com. And it's a website that was developed by USA Triathlon and IRONMAN together. And they have free training plans there, but they're a little bit customized. So you go in and you say, I'm totally unfit, you know, and then they come up with a training plan for you that is for someone who's totally unfit. Or you say, you know, I've done 2 triathlons, I'm a little bit fit, and it comes up with a training plan. And I think that since those training plans have been vetted by USA Triathlon and by IRONMAN, I would trust that those training plans are fairly decent.
What was the website again? Sorry.
Yeah, it's My Time to Try, with 2 spelled out, and then try is T-R-I, mytimetotry.com. And there's all kinds of beginner resources on there. I think it's the go-to place for a beginner. Yeah. So that's what I would suggest. Yeah. So next question: I've never swam in open water. Someone gave me a wetsuit, but I haven't practiced in it because I only have access to warm water at the Y. You can wear your wetsuit I've worn my wetsuit at the Y, and have worn it in chlorinated water too. That water's not the best for the wetsuit, but sometimes if we're getting me back used to using my wetsuit, we do that. Just make sure you rinse it off really well when you get home so all the chlorine comes off. And then the other thing is, if you are wearing it in warm water, you don't want to do a really hard workout where you would overheat, but just to get used to it. And they're fun to swim in. I think they are. A lot of people freak out about them, but I love my wetsuit. It's like having a life preserver on your entire body. And so it keeps you up at the top of the water. The first time I jumped in the water with my wetsuit, literally from chest up was out of the water. I felt like a fishing bobber. You know, I was just kind of floating on the water there. So the reason people, I think this is my opinion, I think the reason people freak out in their wetsuit is because when they put it on, they look down at their feet when they're standing up. And when you do that, the neck will cut into you a little bit, but that's not how you swim. You're not looking at your feet when you're swimming. You're just looking straight ahead or straight down at the bottom. So it would be like looking straight ahead when you're standing up outside of the water. So, and then the other thing that I always do with my wetsuit is I always take the back and I pull it up and over my shoulders to give me as much room in here as I can get. But, you know, it's just, I worried, even though I like swimming, I worried that I would freak out in my wetsuit, but I didn't. So, and I'm guessing that is the race this weekend going to be wetsuit legal? Do we know?
Yeah, at a certain temperature or less. I think it's 70, I can't remember the exact, 78 degrees or less, I think.
Yeah. So it's always good, even if it's really hot and I don't think it's going to be wetsuit legal, I always bring my wetsuit because I've been wrong a couple of times. So yeah, and if it rains the night before, it's amazing how much that cools down the water. So you just never know. Um, yeah, I wish I had a chance to practice. Um, you will have a chance on race morning to get in the water. They allow people to do that. So you could, wear it or go to the Y tomorrow and, just jump in and see what you think.
How early should I get there then?
So
I mean,
yeah,
Saturday.
yeah. On Saturday, so the race starts at 8. I like to be there early because I don't like to be rushed. So I always arrive at 6.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I'm way early. But then I can just kind of take my time through everything, which makes me calm, and I like that feeling. And then also, if anything goes wrong, like, something breaks, and one time, one time when I swam in an important meet, I went to zip up my tri kit, and the whole thing came undone. Luckily, I had a backup, but it was right at the start, and I had to go behind a bush and strip down and put on the. I know my husband thought I was bizarre, but so he was like guarding. But yeah, but if something goes wrong, or something doesn't make sense, and you want to find someone to ask a question, having a little bit of extra time, I think, is really important, at least for me. So, and then there's a pre-race meeting at 7:30. And I always go to that, even though I've done triathlons for years, because the race director might have something that's unique to that year. Like maybe there's a puddle on the course somewhere that he wants to tell you about. So I always like to hear what are the last minute announcements. Then how long should a transition actually take? I would say it doesn't matter in your first triathlon. I mean, I literally strolled into my first one and walked out. And it just, the goal of your first triathlon is just to have fun and get across the finish line. The second one, then you can try to be a little bit faster, but the first one, I wouldn't sweat it. I would take as long as you wanted in transition. I think my first one was a 6.5 minutes. And now, I mean, when I'm racing, I try to only be stopped for my goal is 23 seconds. So yeah, so it's fast.
So just on that note, they wouldn't like ever end the race before the last person's done, right? Because I don't know how fast they'll take.
I noticed this year on their website, if you look, there are some cutoffs, but they're way long. I mean, they're like, you'll finish. Seriously, you'll finish. I mean, a lot of people walk the entire run and dog paddle the swim, and they have time to finish. So you'll be fine. Truly, you will be fine.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. How important is core training? Where's Cynthia? Where's Cynthia? Is she here? There she is. I wonder if you've been talking to my coach. That's all he talks about is core. So yeah, it's really important. Your core is what gives you stability in your run, and that's in this COVID time when I'm not racing now. We're working big time on my core strength, my abs. It's just really, really important to have that strength in everything, in the swim. So yeah, unfortunately, we have to do that core training. Yep. Unless you're just out to have fun and you don't, you're just getting across the finish line, then forget the core training. But to go fast, you want to do that core. Did you ever compete while injured? There was one, actually it was the race where I was 6th in the first American. I was injured for that race, and I had a problem with my SI joint, which is like back in your pelvis, and it hurt like the dickens, but it didn't slow me down. So that was good. Yeah. And that was something else as a beginner that you have to kind of learn is, when do you just keep going and ignore the pain? And when do you go to the doctor? So in the beginning, I went to the doctor every time something hurt the littlest bit. And finally my doctor said, I think we need to have a talk. So yeah, and the advice he gave me was that if it's a sharp pain, or if it's a pain that continues to get worse as you go, then then that's a reason to stop. So, yeah. Good. Francis, you've got people typing in here to you that you're going to do fine. So, very good. Okay, so let's do a book giveaway, and then we'll see if anybody wants to stick around. And if you don't, that's fine too. I know what this is. I thought this whole thing would take an hour, and we're way over. So, but great questions. So here's the book, and the way we'll do this, you've all been typing into the group chat. So get ready to type the answer to your question. Trying to look who. Francis, I think you're unmute. You need to mute. There we go.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Okay, everybody ready to type in? Okay, here's the question, then I'll tell you how we'll connect and you can get the book. The question is, just guess if you don't know the answer, because whoever comes the closest, or if we get more than one right answer, whoever says it first it will win. Okay, so the question is, in what year did the triathlon first become an event in the Olympics? And you can't look it up on your iPhone. Just guess. Okay, we have our first guess, second guess. Okay, everybody's guessing. Okay, I'm going to close in 5 seconds. 5, 4, get your guess in. 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, the answer is the year 2000. So who does that make? Laura? Nobody said 2000. Is Laura the closest? I think so. Okay, Laura. Where's Laura?
Yay!
There you are. Yay! So Laura, absolutely. So here's what we need to do. On my website, so it's SueReynolds.net. On my website, there's a thing you can click where it says contact, and a little text box will come up where you can contact me. So here's what I need to know from you. 1 is your mailing address. 2, who you want me to write the inscription to, so to Laura or to your husband or who. And then if there's anything else, something specific that you want me to say, like if it's to your husband for his birthday, if you want me to say happy birthday to him, tell me that. Otherwise, if you don't tell me what to say, I'll come up with something from the book. Okay, does that make sense? So SueReynolds.net, and then I think tomorrow I'm scheduled to send books out, so we'll get this out to you tomorrow. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
That sounds great. Now, let me ask you this. I guess I can see most of you. We can just have a show of hands. Do you want me to walk through the course? Does anybody want to do that? Okay, we've got one nodding ahead. Okay, so for those of you who are feeling comfortable with the course, feel free to jump off, or you can stay as long as you want. And I will, since we have a couple people that are interested, I'll go back to sharing screen and kind of talk through that. Okay. So, and thanks everybody for coming. If you're leaving, thank you very much. This has been fun. And good luck on Saturday. Or is it Sunday or Saturday? Saturday? Saturday. Okay, good luck. Okay, so I'm sharing screen.